Good afternoon. My first time in Riyadh. Beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful country. So welcome to our session, marhaba. In our session, we're going to be basically focusing on how is this amazing growth going to be supported? How do we attract people to the industry? How do we train them? How do we retain them? And how do we develop them? We all know that our industry, the true assets of our industry, basically depend on people at all levels, whether it's line level or it's mid-level supervisors or general managers. And when things are growing so fast, you know, where do we find these people? How do we train them? How do we retain them? These are the people who create the memorable experiences. These are the people who provide the returns for the investors. And these are the people that make sure that the industry grows in a sustainable way. So fortunately, I've got this very talented panel that's going to join me to address some of these human capital development. So with that, I'd like to invite our panel to come up on stage. Glenn, welcome. Fabien, welcome. And I think we're missing, we see Muin. So thank you so much, folks, for being here. So we'll get started in just a few seconds, but I think before we get started, we've got 40 minutes together. I'd like for you all to just give a little background about what you do, because we've got a representative panel, but if you can give the audience a little background about who you are, what you do, and your role here in Saudi Arabia. So we can just start with Fabien.
Good afternoon, thanks for having me here. Quick one, so I spent about 20 years in the industry before joining education, masters at Cornell, went to Lausanne for 10 years, and then spent 8 years with summer education prior to arriving here in the kingdom. I have the privilege to work under the leadership of His Excellency Al-Khatib, Minister of Tourism, to lead the project of the Riyadh School of Tourism and Hospitality, but I would say more broadly, and we had a speech before, discussion around how do we come up with speed, scale, volume, quality, when the market will need 2 million people in the next 15 years, and today no one can answer the equation. So that's why I'm here, and obviously the discussion will be around those aspects.
Thank you, Fabien.
Thank you very much, AJ. It's a big honor for me as well. I'm with the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, an organization with members that roughly make up about, if you think about the room count, about 8 million rooms, about 50% of the global marketplace in terms of rooms, discussing what we call net positive hospitality, giving back to the destination more than we take, really being, as we heard from the previous speaker, seen as a contributor to the destinations for which we have the privilege to operate within. And obviously, the people side of our industry is the key aspect of what we do. So it's a big honor to be here to share the progress that we're making.
Thank you. Muin?
Very much speaking. All right. Thank you for the invite, and really we are the first panel here, so I would like to thank the organizer, of course, the great Amsa team for setting up the things outside. My name is Muin Serhan. I'm the CEO of Amsa Hospitality. It's a Saudi-born hospitality company, and when you say Saudi-born hospitality company, it comes with so many cultural intake on this. My previous experiences were with Marriott and IHG, where I spent a good number of years on that life. And recently I moved from Neom, where it was the Sandal Islands, into urban islands development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see, we've got a very representative panel. We've got an educator, a global educator, somebody who deals with sustainability, and then of course an operator on the ground. So I think we'll get a very interesting perspective. Now, this is my first time in Riyadh, but I did a little bit of my homework, and it's just amazing to see the growth. 30 million tourists in 2024, 426,000 hotel rooms, these huge, gigantic projects, and job growth to over 2.5 million. So we've got our work cut out for us. In 30 minutes or less, we're going to have to tell the folks here how we can make sure that their investments are safe, because you're going to get the right people. So we had thought about how we're going to discuss this. So the first thing is a discussion about attracting. How do we get people to work in our industry. So my first question, and I guess I'll address it to Fabien and to Muin, is essentially, given the current stage of the development of the tourism and hospitality industry, what are the most critical needs and how are we recruiting and attracting talent to our industry at this moment in time? So one of you can go first.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very good question to start the panel with. Actually, one of the things which is a new generation is looking for, or a new talent is looking for, is basically the right environment. Is he or she are going to enjoy and belong to the environments? This is one. And the second thing, which is very important, is are the culture of this company is really what fits and resonates to the talent. And this is really, I wouldn't say this is an academic word, but from an operator perspective, I'm telling you, this is a very important. There's so many people we recruit or being recruited, after a couple of months, they leave. You ask the magic question in the exit interview, why you're leaving? And the answer is basically, I don't find myself belong to the place. So the sense of belonging, it's a big word. It's not an epic word, but it's really belong to a huge testimony into what this environment creating. And one of the things which is with the new companies coming in, and one of them is Amsa Hospitality, a 4-year-old company. So one of the things we infused is building the right culture. And this culture of accountability, respect, development, growth, seeing exactly what's in it for me. Not only doing my job, having my sense of purpose in line of what really required. Everybody in the company adds value to the day-to-day operation. That really the right essence and the right formula for this.
Okay, and that seems to be working so far?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. You know how you measure it? You measure it with the turnover ratio inside the system. You know, if you have a high turnover, which is a very chaos situation, any hotel, because you are not only losing talent, you're losing talent and money. You train people, then you lose them. You train them, you lose them. You induct them, you lose them. And on top, you're losing the image of having instability company and colleagues, because most of the people you recruit, they will come and say, what happened to the people who were behind me? Is this a new role or I'm replacing somebody? This is the right question. I mean, now we're talking to a very intellectual talent.
Okay, all right, so we've got some success stories there. Fabien, I know you're starting a school here, and so you probably have a good sense of the pulse on this question.
As I said, we're starting a school, and hopefully we were going to start launching programs this year. Because, again, the needs are just gigantic. We throw numbers, you know, 100,000, 150,000 a year for the next 15, 20 years. I mean, who can deliver that volume? The answer is simple, no one. First. Second, we have an issue. I mean, we have lots of issues. One is number, volume. Second is speed. Third is diversity of jobs that you need to train for. Fourth is to do quality. The reason I'm saying quality is because you have lots of trainings out there, but are they impactful? I can say not all of them. Are we wasting money? Yes. Do we need those initiatives? Yes. But we, educators and operators, we have, and governments and policymakers, we have a common responsibility, which is one, how do we bring glamour back into the game? I mean, talking about this industry at large, number one. Two, and you will mention that afterwards, how we retain the kids. And, you know, the ones I talked to in Saudi, you know, if you don't provide subsidies and if you don't provide guaranteed employment, they're not coming. Okay? So it's not just training per se. Training is meaningless. It's not just having ideas. Ideas are good. Execution is key. Is we educators, we need to be, and that is something that education is not good at, we need to be creative, sorry. We need to be innovative. We need technology as an enabler. We need to change the format. We need to change the delivery format. etc., etc. It's not just launching bachelors or masters. That's not going to solve the problem, you know. It's mainly 80% of the needs are workers. It's vocational and professional education. It's upskilling, reskilling. Attrition today, from the last numbers, is above 60%. So you will have attrition. You will steal staff to each other. You will have people leaving. Hence, if you need to train 100,000, if you factor in attrition, you need 160,000. Meaning it's not 2 million that you need, but 3.5. Which means if you don't bring innovation, if you don't bring technology, if you don't change the format, if you don't accelerate the trainings, if you're not relevant, it's never going to work.
Okay. So a lot of challenges you've thrown at us, and it's a young country, and I know these challenges are there, and over time, hopefully these will be addressed. But right now, I think we're looking to see what are some of the current things that are being done to attract talent to our industry. So I think one was mentioned, creating a culture, giving them a pathway as a concrete thing. Fabien, of course, you've been thrown a lot of things all at once, so I can understand you're overwhelmed right now, which is also good to know because, you know, when a new project starts, you know, it's going to take a while to kind of get things in. Now, one of the interviews, Glenn, I heard you talk about the role of creating an environment, a sustainable environment, and when employees know that they're working for a company that is sustainable. Is that something that you want to talk about as a potential thing that companies should be?
Absolutely, AJ. Yeah. And Muin, you said it dead right. You know, the sense of belonging and the sense of purpose. And you said internal purpose, you know, very clear direction. But I'd say there's also an expanded notion to this idea of purpose and an opportunity for industry to really grab that and grab on. And that is sustainability. You know, 86% of those Gen Zs surveyed by Deloitte identified that they want to work for companies that have purpose. And what they mean by that, it shares my value system and that it is focused on sustainability. Gallup poll did the same, and they had 72% say the same thing. That was more important than the money they were getting paid. That was a very important area. And I would say our industry hasn't jumped on that as fast as they could. And, you know, and that includes the educational side. I had the opportunity to speak for the last couple of years at ICRE, which again, an acronym, just throw that out there, but it is an organization made up of universities all over the world. So they all come together in one spot. They're all talking about hospitality training. And you know what? Sustainability is not on the agenda. It's not, they're still teaching as if it was 25 years ago. And that is translating ultimately into how we operate. And so it is imperative that we start to change the narrative and actually walk the walk to actually can then be able to retain and attract the workforce of the future, both to the educational side, because I heard a lot of institutions around the world struggling to have students come into the system. And then on the other side, of course, retaining. So having that sense of belonging internally, but also being part of something that's even bigger than themselves. And if they see themselves being part of that, then they're part of as you said, the sexiness of the industry. Much more than serving a customer, which is imperative and is central to what we do, but it's much bigger than that. And this is where sustainability is on the doorstep for us to showcase that. And they know how the sausage is made. So when they're working in the company and the company's talking and the actual doing isn't there, of course they're walking across the street to the next company, to you, obviously, and going to a company that actually truly believes in it. And that's where the institutions on the training side are winning, and we're on and of course on the hotel side.
Okay. So we've talked about a couple of things, creating a culture, creating a pathway, creating a sense of belonging, but also that they're working for a company that actually will enable them to have some kind of impact, whether it's on the community. So those are definitely concrete things. Now, whenever, I mean, from my experience, when a new industry is emerging and you're getting people from jobs that were not hospitality jobs, there's a big cultural gap. You know, they may have worked in a small enterprise, they might have been fishermen, they might have been whatever. How do we make that transition where they're working in this 5-star luxury hotel and you know, get them to change their thinking? Is that something that we're thinking about at this stage of our journey here in Saudi Arabia?
I think, you know, we are in hospitality. It's a new coming. I wouldn't say it's a new coming in the right way, but I would say it's a new attracting industry for the young talents. So we are recruiting people from different universities and different schemes. For example, we're taking from engineering side, from beyond the usual suspects, you know, the human resources, the finance, the reception. So now attracting people who are attracting talent from a different industry to our industry, there's a huge similarities in what we're doing. All what we need to do is just have the right, I would say, the right induction for them. If they've been known exactly and thought exactly and been educated exactly what they need to do, they will continue and they will develop. But most of the mistakes, which is some industries they do, they bring them in because he's an engineer, he can fit in the hotel business. No, you have to walk him through that journey, that customer journey, that facility journey, and at the end of the day, they will really do a great job. So the answer to this question is the proper induction. In the property, and they will excel.
Okay, and with some of the big global brands coming here, I imagine there'll be sophisticated employers now that will ensure some of that. I want to talk a little bit about the women that are entering the workforce. I mean, I've been reading about that, you know, the country's opening up to that. How's that working out? Is that opening up a new pipeline? Is that adding? I'm just curious to see what's happening in that regard. And anybody can answer that.
I can speak
Yes,
about,
yes.
so one of our key cornerstone programs at the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance is what we call our employability program, where we provide soft skills training, mentorship, and ultimately a job in the industry, in partnership with the industry directly. And I have to say, we had targets of, say, 40% of those that are in the program. And this is people in the program are those that are opportunity youth or disadvantaged, might be marginalized in some way. And we provide that opportunity to those that are, we do a lot of screening in this aspect. In addition to what you've said, we do the screening in a sense that they have to have a passion, they have an interest. Otherwise, it's hard to maintain the longer term conversation. But once they're in the program, we saw in Egypt alone, we just had a graduation ceremony a few days ago, 72% of those that graduate were female. It's a very significant conversation. And in India, similar numbers. And I have to say, we have an 86% retention rate after 2 years in India, a 92% retention rate in Egypt after 2 years. This is because the industry is really committed to them, and they know that. And that's where I think it's important that the company shows that commitment to long-term journey of support in a variety of ways. And ongoing training and development is a key aspect of retention for that to happen. And that's what we've witnessed within our work.
So there's been some success story you've seen
Very
in other
strong
countries,
success story,
but that's not happening here as yet.
Well, we're actually in conversations over the next few days to establish that program right here in Saudi Arabia.
Wonderful.
We're expected to have that
Good,
result.
good to hear that.
Yeah.
The good thing is that if you move from India to Saudi Arabia, so the numbers never lies. When you move from a very shy numbers of 1 digit to 28% of the workforce in the local market are women, this is a big statement, big testimony for what's happening. So there's a huge focus from the government side, from the private sector side toward developing and inclusion. There's a huge also, you know, of course we have, you know, everybody knows that we have a, you know, a salary scale on the same level, doesn't matter male and female. This is something very unique. That means, you know, you are in a good step on this side. And on a leadership skills, they are, I don't want to be biased on this, but I would say they are excelling on so many tasks they've been assigned to the level that they are taking a huge responsibilities, even on a government sides, to a private sector sides being in a leadership skills. And hospitality, you could find general managers, ladies general manager. You know, if you go years back, you don't find this one. you could hardly reach to a director level on a property, but now you have a general manager
Who are
level.
women that are running
Yes,
hotels?
yes,
Wow.
yes, running hotels in Saudi Arabia, and a very iconic hotels. It's not only hotels, very iconic hotels. In Amsa Hospitality, for example, the goal for us to make sure that we are running 50% of our leadership skills in the company out of female leadership. And this goes into the mission what we are in by Amsa Academy, developing the talents and returning them in order to grow the ladder of the hospitality side.
So there are good steps there. Now, from an educator perspective, Fabien, since this is happening now in the industry, what about recruiting women students? Do you see interest in hospitality programs? Because obviously that will be the pipeline that will then go into the industry.
Time is running out, so I will make conclusive remarks. First, as was said earlier, hospitality is not a job, it's an attitude. So what we need is whatever population we are targeting. The trend is, over the last 40, 50 years for education in hospitality, was on technical skills. It's high time that we spend more time on culture, attitude, soft skills, behavior, than chopping carrots. One. Two, the youngsters in Saudi Arabia, they are as wonderful as the other kids in the world. Female, male, I saw them, I met some, I crossed paths with a couple of weeks ago at Red Sea. They're wonderful. Why do not they come to this industry? It's our fault. Educators, operators, we need to provide them with career path, career perspective. When they're good, we need to fast track them. We need to enter their aspirations to be entrepreneurs, to be engaged, to be challenged. And as I said, this is a common responsibility between public, private, educators, and operators to provide those opportunities. We old, the young. We don't think like them. We design programs that are not fit to them. So we need, again, to be creative. I will not say disruptive, but creative, innovative, because again, the scale that we are talking about is never seen before. So if we stick to the old good recipe, it's not going to happen. That's what I have to say. But again, the youngsters here, they are no different than in any other country. They're great. The female, they are more than 50%. I would not say they're greater than the male, but they are super engaged. They're wonderful kids. It's us now to provide, again, operators and educators, the right opportunities for them.
Next time when we have the panel, we'll probably have more women sitting up there, here too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now, did you fast forward this? Because are we out of time already?
Yeah, we are.
Give you a few more minutes.
Can we give a little bit more time?
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
great. Well, so we talked enough about some of the issues related to attracting folks. Let's talk a little bit about training, development, the educational part. So, some initiatives that are in place.
Well, we can talk about one. We have a World Academy for Sustainable Hospitality that provides certified training by department to those that are already working in the hotels.
Okay.
So we looked at 10 different departments. We looked at 16 areas of materiality across, around energy, water, waste, carbon, all the way to the social dimension and the governance dimension. And we provide training germane to the role in the company. So front of house, back of house, all the way to the general manager. We want to have, when it comes to sustainability conversations. So we want to really educate those people that are already working in the field in how to make that property more sustainable and what their role is in that journey. And so that's what we've established. It's a for-industry, by-industry solution that provides the cadence of training that the industry needs to deliver. And so we're pretty excited about that.
Okay. How about what's happening in schools? I mean, you have to get people ready for vocation, for line positions, mid-management, general managers. I mean, what are we doing there?
Well, what the school is doing so far
Give us
is
some
not much, but
positives.
it's happening. But there are obviously other providers. Again, I think for a long time, each time you have an educational initiative, we start with higher education because of prestige. What the market needs is, employees. That's 80% of a hotel, concierge, butlers, receptionists, cook, chefs, etc. So the focus will be on those, of course, upskilling, reskilling, GM leadership, department heads and everything, but that you can work on shorter formats, is on vocational. And on vocational, as well as for other programs, we need to shorten the duration. We need to think differently. If we are sticking to a 2-year degree, listen, if you need to provide 2 million people on the job market, it's not one school that you need, it's 100. Still, look at France, 60 hotel schools, and you're still missing 500,000 jobs, employment on the job market. So we need to think, again, differently to provide short courses, and we need, again, to rebuild aspirations to join an industry that is, in Saudi Arabia, extraordinary in terms of job opportunities for the kid. If we are able to sell, quote unquote, that industry that in 5 years' time, when it used to be 20 years to become a GM, 5 years you're a department head, 6, 7 years hotel manager, 7, 8 years, GM, that's a totally different world. And I think we're not good at it. And I was telling at the ministry earlier, we need to do a Netflix series, on the job in hospitality, as we do, below deck for those, for those who watch those things, because it's a wonderful industry. So how bad are we, to promote such a great pan for kids to be associated with KSA 2030 and beyond? This is going to take 20 to 30 years to get there and to get to maturity. But how do we do that? And how operators and educators, are good enough to promote a sector and to train them in a format that is adapted to the job. And here, again, maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2. That happens, in Vietnam, that happens in Bangkok. And those kids are good.
Muin, if you were to have a conversation with the academic Fabien and say, hey, this is what we need, and this is what you're not giving us, what would you tell him?
I will say this is what we need, and the only thing I could add on this, and this is what we did with Amsa Academy, we have the same thing of the 80-20, which is, I would say, 20% is vocational training, and because they are already coming from an educational backgrounds, but the only thing with their new talent is missing the hands-on job training. So what we do is that you cannot teach a pilot how to run a plane out of your computer. You have to throw him in first simulator, then after that you send him on the hierarchy of being a pilot. Same in hospitality, we have to give him the training, then after that we start going them onto the on-job trainings. But I totally agree with Fabien. What needs to be done is just shorten the training times and with a bit focus.
Speed to market.
Yeah, for 2 things. One is very important, that the talent is impatient already. He or she wants to join another company. I want to see the happy end of the tunnel. I cannot keep training. At the end of the day, unfortunately, hospitality industry, we're low income salary, I would say, especially on the starting point. So this new talent, they come and ask the first thing, and we seen it, we did the surveys, they come and say, the first thing they ask, how much is my salary? So if you need to have, already he have a concern of the salary, so he or she. So if you need to have this low salary for a longer time, then you will lose them. You will train them and you will lose them. So it's very important to make sure that they are being inducted, they've been on training, and shorten this training and really accelerate the training ladder development. And listen, we all been on this level. I cannot expect people in the young talent to, as Fabien said, to stay 25 years in their career in order to become a general manager of their life. No, but what I can do in 10 years program, I can have them or have her as a general manager of a hotel, which is the case. They will do mistakes. Guess what? Who's not doing mistakes? We're all doing mistakes. Let them learn from their mistakes, and we can monitor them and keep that momentum of hiring and seeing them and developing them. Especially now, you mentioned at the starting point that the number of hotels developing in Saudi Arabia needs a huge talent. And I'm telling you, they need to be a general manager of Saudi Arabia. And the recent quota of Minister of Labor that 40% of the jobs in Saudi on the hospitality needs to be in the Saudi localization radar. So that means we will reach to a level, which is next year, we will reach to a level that we need to have this program being faster than the usual. I know Jonathan is looking for me.
John is giving us the evil eye, so we have a lot of questions that obviously we didn't cover, but certainly we know there are challenges, but there are also some solutions that you all have put forth that hopefully the audience can take away. So thank you, folks, for the session today. Okay.